Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Move podcast, brought to you each and every time, yet again this season, by the OURA ring. God, I am getting a ton of data out of this thing. And as I try to refine my health and wellness, because I know Mr. Hincapie's coming for me this summer, the difference I'm seeing in all the vital stats, okay, sleep quality, HRV, core temp, heart rate through the night, it's I love it. I love what I'm seeing, and wait till you see what they're going to roll out soon. This thing's changing the game. Head on over to OURA Ring, OURA ring.com, and get yourself one. Today's show also brought to you by Roka. What a badass eyewear brand down in Austin, Texas. I've been wearing this brand for years, even before they were our partners here on the show. I love it. I love the fact that they're locals in Austin. Rob and his whole crew, they just continue to up their game. As everybody who listens to this show knows, I wear a lot more reading glasses than I do cycling and running glasses, but they got it all. They got the dopest readers. They got the new Matador that I'm just in love with. This is the hottest shade out there, I think. Sponsoring a bunch of really cool teams. Justin Williams and his team over at Legion of LA, Team DSM, SD Works Women. They got it all, and making moves, buying low, selling high, as we say. Just for our listeners, head on over to roka.com, ROKA.com, and enter the move. That's your buy code, your discount code for 20% off of your first purchases. Your first purchase, I should say. These are legit. These are the best shades I've ever worn, and we appreciate their support. Also coming on this season is as I talk about a lot, LMNT. This is my go-to. I sweat my ass off when I'm out there hustling on the bike, and everybody makes fun of me, but I got to replace all this sweat. This is the one thing I've come across that to me works the best. It's got 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium. And not only have I put it to the test, they put it out there to all these other folks, special forces, U.S. Olympics, NFL teams, NBA teams, tech leaders. This is an interesting one. Guys out there, especially people playing around with intermittent fasting and keto diets, bunch of gnarly dudes out there like Tim Ferriss that are just in love with this product. This is the one. This is my jam. It's their jam. Should be your jam. Just for our listeners, head on over to this page, drinklmnt.com/themove. And then when you head over there, you'll see it explains itself. But for your community members, you can purchase an LMNT sample pack for the cost of shipping only $5, and you get 8 packs of LMNT. Give it a test, all 4 of their flavors. Head on over to lmnt.com/themove. All right. Today I'm joined, like I have been for the last little while here. We got George Hincapie over in Greenville. We got JB Hager back in the RV, folks. This is how all this shit started. He is in the RV in Austin, Texas, and way over there on the Iberian Peninsula, Johan Brunel, the guy who knows everything, because God knows I don't know much about this stuff anymore. But Johan is a hawk. He's on it. He's our, as we always say, he's our encyclopedia. Fellas, I just want to check in, and we'll just start. How am I going to go in alphabetical order? JB, tell us, how was your off season? What have you been up to?
COVID year off season, very bizarre, very, very bizarre. And then we had an unprecedented freeze in Austin, where people's homes were, in the 20s temperature wise. So it's been a weird year, but it's okay. Riding my bike. I got a couple of riding buddies, no group rides back yet, but and now
I heard they called it Snowvid-19 with all that snow.
It was bizarre, but now it's almost 90 degrees here, and we're back on the lake with my daughter.
Yeah, well, the week it snowed there, everybody's tripping out, and I understand there was serious consequences of that, but a week later it was like 75.
I know, crazy.
So it's Texas. If you don't like the weather, wait 15 minutes. Johan, how's it over in Europe, man?
It's okay. As in Spain, at least, contrary to the many reports, Spain is I wouldn't say normal, but it's functioning. I spent the most of my time being a full-time dad and mom together. I taking care of my 2 kids. So that's obviously a big job. And we had the same over here. We had a big snowfall a couple of months ago, which was unseen in Spain for the last 50 years. So that was quite the experience. And but yeah, really looking forward to getting in it again. And the season has started. The cycling season has started in a pretty spectacular way, I think. And so we have plenty to talk about.
Well, we are going to talk about that. But primarily, we're going to talk about Paris-Nice, Tirreno, Adriatico, and preview Milan-San Remo. But of course, we're going to have to talk about a few of the other things that have happened that have just been exceptional. I mean, the bits and pieces that I've caught. I got one takeaway, and I'll get to Princess here in a second and check on him. But my one takeaway is I'm really, really glad I don't race a bike anymore. I tell you, these kids, man, shit, I can't even watch it. They're so fast. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not crazy. It's unbelievably impressive. And so it's going to make for an exciting season, as we've already, I mean, if the beginning is any indication, but we'll get in and break all that stuff down. Pretty boy, how you doing over there in Greenville? You're back in the new Hincapie Sportswear office. For those who don't know, I don't know how many cars, this is crazy. People worry about riding their bikes and getting hit by cars. George has an office in Greenville that I think is it 1 or 2 drivers that have driven into the office.
One driver hammered 4 a.m. drove right through our office about coming on 2 years now. And with COVID, everything slowed down. So we just finally got back in here about a month ago.
Wow. How's everything else going? I see you're out there. Everybody follows your Instagram. And you're out there with all these fancy people. Then you're in Hawaii and all the islands doing photo shoots. I mean, you got the life. You have the life.
I wouldn't say that, but I'm particularly excited to get the season back going. I missed my team, the MOVE team. I feel like without the bond of the racing season, I get like the occasional once a month text from Lance where he just yells at me or says, "What are you doing?" Or "That looks stupid." I'm so glad it's not me. So, with the race, the racing holding us together, now it's like this, we have to have more frequent conversations and we're more in touch and just things go a lot more smoother now. So I'm excited to start talking about racing.
I will. I promise to do better. I promise. All right. Well, let's kick it off with, we'll just sort of go in chronological order here. I mean, Paris-Nice, AKA the Race to the Sun, really was the start of sort of classics buildup, although there's been great races, obviously, the races in the UAE and some races in Belgium. But Paris-Nice, man, didn't disappoint when it came to drama and perhaps even controversy. And we saw a superior Primož Roglič, who just had terrible luck and lost the race on the final day. But Johan, what sticks out there? I mean, there was some good racing there.
Yeah, I think really what sticks out to me is compared to, let's say 5-10 years ago, is that all these big riders, Roglič is number 1 in the world right now. So that from the first race, without any competition, they're at the top level. And you can say the same for all of them. They're immediately there. And Roglič, immediately the first big appointment he won without any discussion and basically was dominating Paris-Nice. He won 3 stages. He would have won the overall, undoubtedly. So that's really what sticks out. And also, super high level, doesn't really matter who's there. The guys just go super fast. If you look at the times on the climbs, every record is being broken. So it obviously shows that, the teams who are really on top of all the details and have the science dialed in, they know what they're doing and they know exactly when they're ready. And nowadays, it's not necessary anymore to have races in the legs to get the rhythm. They're there straight away. Roglič and his team, they came straight from an altitude camp in Tenerife. So, yeah, that's what really impresses me.
I see. I went skinning up this morning, and skinning, for those who don't know, is like they call it ski mountaineer skinning. And so I skinned up Aspen Mountain early this morning. I can just now start to feel my hands again. And I skinned with my buddy Dean Hill, who really follows the sport, knows the training side of it, the physiology, the tactics. He's awesome, Aussie dude. And I said, man, what is going on? Like, and not with a slanted eye. It's just like, how are these kids so fast so early in the season? And, certainly when he looks at Van Aert and Van der Poel, I mean, he really credits the cyclocross season for just giving them, call it a base, call it a head start, call it what you want. But I don't know, that those guys are on a whole nother level. Then you layer in what we see in some of this coverage with the watts that they're producing. I mean, Van der Poel's going up. I mean, Strade Bianchi went up. He's doing watts that would have won field sprints in the day when we were racing. I mean, it's
with Cipollini. Yeah.
I mean,
well, definitely things have changed. I mean, a lot more details are being covered, more than we ever would have imagined back in our day. I think going back to Paris-Nice, we were talking about Roglic, how dominant he was. What stands out for me is how mentally strong is this guy. 2 crashes, and the guy does not sit up. Most people would be like, fuck it, I just crashed, 2 times in Paris-Nice. The season is just starting. I'm just going to roll into the finish. The guy was going as hard as he could to cross the finish line, knowing that the race was gone. But what a just true fighter. And, even though he's had some bad luck in the final of, obviously, the Tour de France and now Paris-Nice and some other races, I mean, he just never stops fighting. I just can never count this guy out. He's just very, very impressive athlete, mentally and physically strong.
Yeah, well, never mind. These crashes on in bike races are not nearly as bad as the one he had, I don't know, 10 years ago, ski jumping. I showed that to my son the other day and his hockey team, and they just kept watching it. His meter might be a little different than most.
Probably, yeah. I mean, one thing also, I think, something we forget this year particularly is that last season finished really late. So Roglic, if you look at Roglic, he finished the Tour of Spain, which, what was it, in October? When normally they would have been on a break already. So the off season has been shorter. So that also might be a factor that these guys are in shape so early, because they really had, and especially Van Aert and Van der Poel, they had no time off. Basically.
JB, you were going to say something?
No, I just, there were, not only was there Roglic's crash, which I never did find footage of that, what exactly happened, but if you watch Paris-Nice, there were a lot of crashes, just everywhere, not even in technical spots. And it seemed more than normal. Is that pre-race jitters? Early season jitters, or was there another dynamic going on that caused so many crashes throughout Paris-Nice?
Well, those, and I asked, there was no rain, but those roads, having lived in Nice most of my career and trained on every road there, I mean, those are not straight. These are not, roads from Plano, Texas, or these are tricky roads. You got to really pay attention. They get narrow quick. They twist and they turn. There's always the unexpected, right? And so the south of France is just, as I said, you got to play heads up cycling, because and they'll throw one at you.
Yeah. Plus you have all the classics guys getting ready for the classics. So there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of guys super fit. There's a lot on the line. So Paris-Nice is always very dangerous and very risky, as is Tirreno Adriatico.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the early season stress obviously is there, plus from what I see is that, this also has changed, that there's not really any more relaxed stages. They're always going fast. And more and more road obstacles. If you see the crash in, I think it was in Tirreno, right? The English guy, Simon Carr, who hit that traffic island. I mean, there are more and more of those. And I, from what I hear, there's no more joking in the peloton. There's no more chatting. It's always, from the start to the finish, it's game on. Yeah. And obviously, that will produce more crashes.
And speaking of English, Johan, it's obstacles, not obstacles. Not obstacles.
Obstacles. Sorry. Hindernissen in Flemish.
Hindernissen. Remember a couple of years ago, we couldn't, for the life of us, we couldn't pronounce de Koenig. Like we had like 10 tries. I mean, we were like, fuck it. We'll call them the Wolfpack. I mean, we could not say that name. And now it just rolls off like it's no problem. I don't know how to say obstacles in any other language, but I'm just saying in English, it's obstacles.
I'll make that. I'll take that note. Yeah. Obstacles.
I think since we're still talking about Paris-Nice, I think we need to talk about the Americans. We had McNulty up there in the top 3 for a while, a real podium contender for the finish. Unfortunately, another crash, which wiped him out of the race, but really impressive riding up until his crash. We had Jorgensen, who finished 8th place overall in Paris-Nice, which is very impressive for a young rider. I believe he lives in Nice, so he knows a lot of those roads. But what an awesome ride by him. And then Sepp Kuss was super strong in UAE, not with Pogacar and Yates, but he was one of those last guys there on the climbs. And then can't forget about Quinn Simmons in Strada Bianca. He was up there with the favorites, second race of the year, second or third race of the year. It was super impressive for him to be riding up there with the big guns, so to speak. And unfortunately, he crashed as well, but I think I was very impressed personally with his ride.
Well, you think Quinn Simmons has a chip on his shoulder? I mean, how hungry is this guy, right? And for those who didn't follow it that closely yet, there was as social media does, come up and bite you in the ass. And he got out there and was suspended by his team and is finally back. But boy, he wants to make a statement. The only this Jorgensen kid, I'll tell you, I've never seen him race. But I've been hearing about him for years, right? Primarily through my good buddy, Jimmy Riccatello, and his son, Matthew Riccatello, who raced with him. Level-headed, smart kid, tough, dual nationality, which I don't know what that matters, but it's kind of cool. But he's the real deal. I think we're on to, we're talking about this younger generation. I'd love to eventually start seeing this young crop of Americans really come through, whether it's all the names you've named, also Matthew Riccatello. And we're going to be back in this game before too long, I think.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how Quinn Simmons has made Roubaix the big goal. He's made no secret that, that's his major goal of the season. He's put it out there all winter long on social media. And I think, I'm just super impressed with how he rode Strada Bianca, and I'd love to see him do a good race there in Roubaix.
Yeah. Johan, any other takeaways from Paris-Nice? You saw Sam Bennett won a couple stages.
Sam Bennett, super, super strong in the sprint. I think stronger than last year. They really have a team. I mean, they have, what's it? Morkov. Morkov is just, George, you can join in on that. Morkov is just unbelievable. I think the best lead out man in the world. So yeah, Sam Bennett was very impressive, but yeah, I mean, it was basically Roglic. The one thing that I saw, and obviously, they had to split their team over 2 races, but still, Jumbo-Visma was a lot less impressive as a whole than what we've seen last year.
Because there were times Roglic was isolated.
Yeah, in Tirreno they had a weak team around Van Aert. So supposedly they had their best team in Paris-Nice. Obviously Tom Dumoulin is not there because he stopped for a while. We don't know how long. But yeah, that was quite kind of a surprise that they were not able to be there all the time as they were last year. They were less impressive.
There's another layer to the sprints as well. You see what Bennett was critical of a lot of the other sprinters not respecting the lead out train, taking him off of his teammates' wheels, and he was just still so impressive and so good in the final. Not only was he obviously fast, but he almost made that uphill finish stage as well, where he kind of sat up with 300 meters to go, but he was there right till the end, and he still was able to find Markov's wheel and be able to win a couple stages in Paris-Nice. So it was just very, very impressive riding by Sam Bennett.
What is the thought process behind divvying up teams for these week-long stage races that happen at the same time? Do you want to put all your eggs in one basket and double down, or split them up evenly? Well,
I mean, obviously, Van Aert was the first time that he was going to go for GC, so it was an unknown. Personally, I thought he was really weakly supported. If they have a little bit of trust in him, then they should at least have had some more support for him. So I don't really know. I mean, maybe they have a few guys who were injured, but yeah, the strongest team was in Paris-Nice, and there was basically no support for Van Aert.
But Johan, I don't think the result would have changed in Tirreno even if Van Aert had support.
No.
Pogacar was that much better. Van Aert still won 2 stages, first stage and last stage. I mean, incredible race by him. Still, I think on one of the climbs, somebody told me where Van Aert went a minute faster than Froome did when he raced it, and Pogacar went a minute 30 faster than Froome. I mean, the level is just crazy high right now.
Yeah, the first 20 riders of the uphill finish beat the best time was Nibali and Froome, who had like the records, and the first 20 riders of the race beat the record. So it's the level is incredibly high. But I agree, Pogacar is definitely confirming that he is, he won the Tour de France, and I think he's, he showed already in the UAE from the gun that he was back there, and yeah, he's probably the strongest stage racer right now. I mean, it's kind of strange to say that a guy like Egan Bernal, who won the Tour de France 2 years ago, is all of a sudden it feels like he's irrelevant. It's we don't know. He's on a good level, but there's some guys who are above them.
Bernal was riding quite well. It's just their next level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and in my questions after last September's Tour de France, you have a young kid, never had success like this, going back to a small country. I'm thinking, man, he's going to be like he's in Motley Crue or something. And he comes out of the gate at obviously a race that in a country that sponsors his team. If that were me, I'd be like, hey guys, settle down. I'm not here. I can't win your home race. You need me to win the Tour de France. But man, after all the success, the off season, which must have been busy for him, to come out like that, boy, that is at a race that's, I've never done that race. None of us have, but I don't know. It's important because it's where your home sponsor is, your title sponsor, but come on, nobody needs to win that race necessarily, but to come out and win that race as impressively as he did, that shows you this kid is, boy, he's for real. And then to follow it up with Tirreno, and you guys, I know we're going to get to San Remo in a second. Everybody has their pick. I'm going to have a surprise pick, but what were you saying, JB? The Euro, JB?
Also, Lance, speaking of Pogacar, to be on that level straight from the gun after the crazy winter, but also let's not forget, he signed a 5-year contract for 5 million euros a year with UAE. He could say, okay, I'm taking it easy. I'm going to be there when it matters. No, the kid is just from the gun, shows his pride. And I mean, he's a real champ.
Well, I'm trying to figure out who got ripped off, because we have 2 5-year, $5 million a year guys. Somebody got ripped off. Okay. Yeah. I'm just saying, somebody got straight up ripped off.
Well, Johan, that's a big difference right now with Pogacar, Van der Poel, Alaphilippe, Van Aert. I mean, these guys aren't trying to peak. Like, are they peaked the whole year, or like when do they have time off? When are they taking it easy? Every race they're racing full gas. It's mind-boggling that they're still going to be the favorites at the end of the classic season at Roubaix, to be able to hold that sort of form. I mean, didn't see that back in our day.
No, I think they have it so dialed in my opinion. From what I can hear, and it's so focused, and they know exactly. With they have the whole what thing under control, how they have to train, when they have to back off. They're really there whenever they want. They have to be there, and they know when to back off. And I have no doubt that a guy like Pogacar will be, and Roglic will be, two of the big, the 2 big favorites for the Tour de France, and they're on the highest level now.
Yeah. Before we jump into Milan-San Remo, I want to take care of a little more business, because we have a lot to talk about with La Primavera, which is this Saturday, of course, which we will be covering here at the Move. But before we get to that, today's show also brought to you by Kettle and Fire, new partner This one, and I love it when we have these new partners, they send us stuff and they're like, hey, check this out. What do you think? And I got to say, and this is what I say to the listener or viewer all the time. Like we're not taking this stuff if we don't believe in it. So Kettle and Fire sends me a whole box of broths and soups and all these things. And this stuff is, I'm telling you, it's as I mentioned this morning, I went out skinning. I was freezing my face off, my hands off, my feet, everything. And I came home and heated up a whole thing of this Kettle and Fire bone broth. And it was, I was like, oh, all right, I'm back to normal. It was awesome for me. All natural, clean, real ingredients, nothing artificial, very convenient. I just dumped this thing in the pot and heated it up and boom, I was good to go. All in one nutrition, very rich in collagen, protein, electrolytes, amino acids, and approved by all these things. Keto, paleo friendly, Whole30 approved, gluten-free, non-GMO. What else? What else are we going to say in there? Politically correct. I mean, it's got everything. It's yeah. And it's dense. Like I just immediately felt replenished after I went out. And by the way, George, just so you know, because we can just compare vert, right? So I don't know what you did on the bike today in terms of vert. My skinning this morning was 3,000 vert. So I feel pretty good, but
I did not do any exercise today, by the way, but my wife was particularly happy about Kettle and Fire. She uses it all the time. So that was a really nice, pleasant surprise when we got that box in the mail.
Yeah. Special offer for our listeners. Head on over to kettleandfire.com/Lance. And your discount code for 20% off is Lance, LANCE. Can't mess that up. Last one of the day. Another one that's a huge hit at our family, the Magic Spoon. And this one it's actually got a cool story because my kids, growing up as I did, we always ate crap cereal and all this processed stuff and colors and sugar and of course my kids, if you just left them some of that stuff, they'd eat it. I just put the Magic Spoon in the pantry and it's all they eat. And then I walked down the other day and Anna was hammering a bowl of Magic Spoon. I said, honey, way to be, you're on the train. Zero sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, 13 grams of protein. This stuff's all natural. And as I was looking at the ingredients, and I will need my readers for this, because a lot of times you can get around sugar with stevia. And and Anna will not let me have stevia in the house. And I'm not a big fan, but I'm looking through the ingredients. There's no stevia, right? There's allulose. And so you go to the bottom and they call it our magic. Allulose is a rare sugar found in raisin, figs, and maple syrup. I mean, that's the secret. That's the secret sauce right there. That's the magic. Special offer for our listeners as well. Head on over to magicspoon.com/TheMove. Use the code TheMove for $5 off. By the way, this company, we're doing a bunch of investing these days. I'm like, how did I miss this? They're on fire and they should be, right? You want to lead a better life, a healthier life, help your kids lead a better and healthier life. Head on over to magicspoon.com/TheMove. Buy code, discount code, TheMove. All right, let's talk about La Primavera. Just before y'all get into this, because this was a race that was, George, you loved, and I don't know about you, Johan. I didn't particularly love this race. This thing is, it was always is long. Okay, first of all, it's the longest race of the year. The weather can be terrible, although it looks like it's going to be good this weekend. But man, it just wasn't my jam. But it's the kickoff of the classic season. It's the first monument. Obviously makes it super important. And after what we've seen at the start of the season, this is going to be a hell of a race. I mean, all these guys we've just talked about, they all want to win this race, right? This is Milan-San Remo going on for 100 years. I mean, how many times did the greats win it? Eddie Merckx won it, 7 times?
7 times. Mm-hmm.
7 times. So, I mean, it wasn't my jam, but it's a beautiful race. And so if you guys can tune in, you'll love it, especially with this field.
George, you wanna start?
Yeah, obviously it's the first World Cup of the year, one of the longest, I believe. At the end of the race, most of the guys will have 300 kilometers. By the time you do the neutral section, do the 70 kilometers of the race, ride back to
294, George.
295. It depends on where the hotel is at the finish line. Sometimes the hotel, we've gotten to the finish line. They're like, the hotel is 6K from here. You're like, what? I just rode 295 kilometers. So it's definitely it's the longest. probably the most easiest to finish because you have you don't have major climbs before the finish. But we know what the tactics are going to be. The tactics are going to be, let's make it as hard as possible in the Cipressa and then the Poggio, and then maybe Van der Poel, Alaphilippe, or Van Aert will be able to attack at the end. Who knows if some guys will be able to get away in between those two climbs. But I believe you'll see the Koenig setting the pace. You'll see Jumbo setting the pace for Van Aert, and Van der Poel will be floating around on his own for the most part. But you have your outsiders as well. I mean, Greg Van Avermaet. I mean,
stop with this stuff. Stop with that. I mean, what is this? Where is the? I'm sure he's a nice guy. Okay, but he's pan the office.
Great. One of the hardest stages at a Hoot Bar. You can't count him out. We're talking about a World Cup. It's a little different than a Johan. Back me up. 290 kilometers is a lot different than 220 kilometers. So you get a whole different
George,
engine that is required to be there at the finish.
Greg is on great form, actually. I could see in Tirreno he was there for a very long time in the hard stage. He just had bad luck. I mean, he may be in great shape, but against these new guys, there is absolutely nothing he can do. Nothing. He can have a good result if he's lucky and they look at each other and take advantage of certain circumstances. But when it's really down to the quality, there's no way. I mean, no matter how good he is, these guys are just a level above them.
Well, that can always happen in bike racing, but
absolutely, yeah.
George, if you one of these days give us a tour of the new office, I have a feeling that there's a Greg Van Avermaet poster in the men's room. I mean, the way you honestly, this is strange. This is. I mean, come on. Hey, quick question. This is, and I haven't clearly done much research on this, but last year we had this deviation because of COVID. It's gone back to the traditional route. Are we sticking with that deviation?
I haven't seen, but I think it's the same course as last year.
Okay.
Yeah. Even if they do the deviation, I don't think it was very impactful to the end result. It's always Capo Berta, Cipressa, Poggio. Those are the things that are the most significant on that course.
Yeah. It's Cipressa and Poggio like always. And Milan-San Remo is one of those races. As you said, George, it's very easy. It's the easiest to finish, but when you hit the Cipressa and then even more the Poggio, even if the Poggio is not super hard, but you get there with 300 kilometers in the legs, after the neutralization, it's like, oh, I felt good like 5 minutes ago, and now I can't get out of the saddle, right? So that's really what's gonna make the difference. And I mean, last year we saw Alaphilippe and Van der Poel, Alaphilippe and Van Aert getting away on the Poggio. I don't think Van der Poel was in the race. Now he's going to be in the race, so it's hard to imagine not having these three guys in the final. Of course, another thing that you have to have in mind is Milan-San Remo. We were speaking about nervousness and stress. This is really stressful at the end. So, you hit the wheel of somebody in front of you and you're out immediately. So that's gonna be a factor. Lance,
there's no doubt the positioning to get to the Cipressa with 170 guys at that point along the windy coast roads of Italy there, with parked cars on the side of the road, medians in the middle. It's probably one of the most stressful situations in all of cycling. And even though the favorites usually get through it, it's still never guaranteed. And you need guys with you. And it's very, very, very technical, very stressful. And it makes it, last year, that was probably one of the most impressive things I saw all year, was when Alaphilippe flatted right before that and somehow made it back to the front before the Cipressa. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. One of the craziest things I've ever seen in cycling. So that is just unheard of. You got to be at the front right before the Cipressa, and it's a lot easier said than done.
Well, speaking of Alaphilippe, I mean, it took us 45 minutes to mention his name. And again, I'm just going to go back to what we've been talking about in this crop of guys that are just, dude, they're on fire. This guy's the world champion, by the way. It took us 45 minutes.
Speaking of Alaphilippe, the day before Alaphilippe won the stage, Lance said he's done. He wins one of the hardest stages in Tirreno, Adriatico.
No,
Van der Poel and Van Aert by a lot.
That's George. Actually, that's not true. I told you guys I fat fingered. I meant to type "he's the one," not "he's done." I forgot the, and I put a D, and it looked like I said "he's done." What I meant to say was I was predicting him to win the next day. That he's the one.
Mm.
Got it.
I think you're a bit confused there, Lance, because I don't think you wrote it. You said it. It was on a call. It was on a staff call.
Well,
that I recorded.
JB, I asked you to delete that. God, wow.
One thing I wanted to bring up, guys, that I think we saw that blew my mind in Tirreno that could become a factor in San Remo is that we found out that Wout van Aert and Mathieu van der Poel can sprint. In fact, if you didn't see it, go back and watch Wout van Aert on stage 1 at Tirreno out sprint Caleb Ewan and Gaviria. It's like, it's mind blowing. They can do it all. So it's not like if it all comes to the line, it goes to a sprinter anymore. I mean, well, these guys are sprinters as well, but it's just mind blowing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you. And I mean, obviously, we've all known that they can sprint, but the level they're sprinting at now, and not only that, when Van der Poel won the stage and Van Aert got second, and Van Aert went with 900 meters to go to chase down the guy that went. These guys are not scared of anything. They go and he still finished second place. Van der Poel just passed him the line, but they're just so much better right now than everybody else.
No, a guy like Van Aert, for example, I mean, he's really something else. There was some people who were asking on social media, who, except like Van Aert, for example, he's in a stage race. He's there in the mountain stage. He wins sprints and he wins the time trial. Who does that remind you of? I can only come up with 3 names. It's Eddie Merckx, of course, but, I think he's out of competition. He cannot participate in these kind of things because he won everything. But it's a guy like Sean Kelly and Bernard Hinault. Hinault won bunch sprints. Kelly won bunch sprints. Kelly won a big tour. He could time trial, won Paris-Nice 7 times. This is something else. We had the debate last year about Wout van Aert, for example. What would it take for him to focus on GC? I think we have the answer here. He's second in Tirreno. Obviously, beaten by arguably the best stage racer in the world right now. But I have no reason to believe that a guy like Mathieu van der Poel, if he focuses on GCs, he can do that too. These guys can do everything.
Johan, you made a good point right before the show during our notes, was that Van Aert had the 3rd fastest time in that time trial. Third, it's just winning field sprints in the first stage to win in the time trial in the last stage, 3rd fastest time ever, better than Cancellares and people like that. We haven't seen a level like that in a long time.
That's true.
And we predict, listen, we're not often right, especially me, but we talked about Van Aert being a potential GC threat, right? We said
last year.
We stated this, and to me, it's, of course, it always depends who you're racing against, but yeah, duh. And he started getting asked about that, and he said, no. He probably saw a couple of these big contracts these GC guys got and thought, but I'm stand by that statement. This kid can figure that out.
If he decides to be a GC guy, you got to change your habits. Can you still do cross all winter and the classics and focus?
He obviously needs to switch his focus a little bit. I think it would take 2 seasons. 1 season to kind of get, change his normal habits. But I have absolutely no doubt that a guy like Van Aert and Van der Poel, they can win a Grand Tour.
I don't think we can't predict anything based on what they've done in the past, because it's just completely different than anything we've ever done. Apparently they said that Van Aert was in Tenerife before Tirreno Adriatico, and he was not only was he training, but he was going for runs as well. So it's things that we never thought about doing, and they're doing it.
Wait.
Yes,
hang on. No. Just hold on. Hold on. Back up. Did you just say he was going for runs?
He was running as well during his Tenerife training camp, and then dominates Tirreno Adriatico, gets second place. I think our old playbook is just thrown out the window.
Oh yeah,
a whole new thing going on there.
Yeah, everything has changed.
Yeah,
we even got
there's no more traditional. There's no more tradition. No more. We used to do it like this. No. Everything has changed. Everything's possible.
And then the other thing we saw for the first time from Van der Poel is attacking while eating. If you saw that Tirreno, snack in his mouth going on the attack. I mean, he can do.
I have
ride with broken handlebars, which we saw just a bit ago.
I have two good stories about Van der Poel actually, because we have the guy who was a mechanic in our team, Jean-Marc van den Berge. He's now the mechanic of Mathieu van der Poel, and so I'm in contact with him a little bit. And so two stories. The day we didn't talk about one of the Belgian classics. He went away with 80 kilometers to go, and was caught with 500 meters to go. And his dad, Adrie van der Poel, asked after the race. He said, "What the hell were you thinking? Where were you going so early?" And he said, I was sitting in the bunch and it was going easy, and I was bored. So I said, okay, I'm going to attack. And they caught him with 500 meters to go. And apparently in Tirreno, he attacked because he was cold.
I mean, that I understand, but being bored, that one takes the cake.
Being bored.
You're looking around like, you know what? Y'all are boring. Okay. I'm just going to have to send it.
He did that in the post-race interview. It was so cold and miserable. He just wanted to get home.
Yeah. Well, or a combo. What was the second story, Johan, before we pick before we try to not pick our winners, we try to make our predictions for La Primavera, Milan-San Remo.
Yeah, no, those were, those two, Tirreno and Kuurne, Brussels Kuurne. But another insight is that also, and I don't know what you think, George, about this. So we obviously saw Van der Poel, the second stage he won, he barely made it. He was dead. He's one of the big favorites for Milan-San Remo. My first reaction would be, okay, he won 2 stages. He has a big chance. I pull him out of the race. There's nothing to gain anymore. There's one stage, and then the time trial today, which he didn't do easy either, because he did 50 kilometers per hour. And I had a conversation with his manager, with the team manager about it. I say, why, I think it would be a good idea to pull him out of the race. And the manager said, I think it's the best idea. I already told him. But then, obviously, Mathieu van der Poel is Mathieu van der Poel, and he wants to race, so he didn't listen to the advice and just rode out Tirreno Adriatico. Hopefully, that doesn't cost him Milan-San Remo, because I think he could have used those 2 days of extra recovery, because that day that he went on that 50-kilometer solo attack, that really took a lot out of him. It was a heroic win and amazing, but I think 2 days of extra rest could have been very helpful for him.
I agree. When I saw that effort, I thought he might have been pulled out the next day as well. But at the same time, for the guys that do Tirreno Adriatico, as you know, Johan, it's kind of like a boring window. Those 3 days from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you got to go hang out and in between San Benedetto del Tronto and Milan, find a hotel, do nothing except sit in your room and ride an hour a day and try to recover. So perhaps he was thinking, I don't want to be bored for 5 days. I prefer to be bored for 3 days. And these guys have recover, better than anybody we've ever seen. So I think he'll be fine. But I thought the same thing you thought. Like, probably better to pull out.
Well, when he's bored, he attacks. So he said
exactly.
Instead of being bored, I may as well race a bike race.
Yeah, it's a boredom complex. Let's pick some winners.
Okay.
And I had a surprise pick, but I've actually changed. I have another surprise pick.
Okay. I have a favorite and a dark horse. Okay. You can go first, George.
No, Johan, age first. Let Johan go.
Okay. Age first. Okay. Calling me old. Good. It's difficult to not say Mathieu van der Poel. What I've seen, his attack on in Strade Bianchi, and the way he basically dropped Alaphilippe on that steep uphill. I think it gives him a little bit of advantage, although the Poggio is definitely not as steep. So my doubt is, will these 3 guys be able to get rid of each other? But then Van der Poel, he has that final sprint also, and after 300 kilometers, he's my pick. He's my favorite. My dark horse is Davide Ballerini.
Oh Lord, we're just serious.
The Koenig Quickstep. If it all comes together, which is possible. Normally, the Koenig Quickstep, they'll have Alaphilippe in the front on the Poggio, and he can just wait there. And I think he can make it. And he's an Italian guy, fast, won the first classic. So he's my dark horse.
Okay, and he's Italian. Mm-hmm. George, what do you got, George?
Do we have a weather forecast yet, Johan?
Yeah, the weather looks good. It's not too warm. It's high 50s.
Okay.
No rain.
All right.
Both in Milan, because as we know, it can be raining in Milan and sunny on the coast. So it's the current forecast is no rain all day.
Hard to bet against the big three: Alaphilippe, Van der Poel, and Van Aert. I'm going to go with Van Aert just because of how well he's sprinting and how diverse he is in terms of his form. That's my pick. My dark horse pick is Mads Pedersen.
Ooh, that's not a bad pick. Huh. Okay. All right. I don't like this whole, I have a hard enough time making one pick. Okay. So trying to pick a second one is like 10 times as hard. But just because y'all were giving me grief earlier, I'm going to pick Julian Alaphilippe. I think this guy, I was just sitting here thinking about this because y'all were talking about something else. I was like, George was talking about staying in hotels and I don't know. I was like, whatever. And I was thinking about it, right? This dude he's a tough guy. And I don't remember saying he's done. But he's got it. And I say this in the best way. This kid's got an ego, right? So all the attention is going towards Van Aert and Van der Poel and all these other guys. And he's the world champion. He's wearing the rainbow jersey. He is who he is. And so, and he might be laying low. Have we thought about that? Right. That we're talking about new tactics versus old tactics. That was a tactic back in the day. I'm going to pick him. And my wild horse, I'm going to raise you guys since you raised me on the wild horse thing. My initial pick before Alaphilippe was Pogacar. So but I have two dark horses. It's Pogacar.
Wait, Pogacar does not race Milan-San Remo.
You know what? I think it's, but I just wanted to talk about him once again because he's been so impressive. All right, now here's my dark horse. My dark horse is Quinn Simmons.
Wow.
Two guys with if I were them, I would have a chip on my shoulder for two very different reasons. I'm going Alaphilippe to win, and my dark horse is Quinn Simmons.
I think that's a good one. JB, what about you?
Is Sagan doing San Remo?
We don't know. He's skipping some of the Belgian classics to do Catalunya, so I don't know. But before you pick Sagan, I wouldn't pick him. I don't think in the shape he is now, he has no chance.
We're gonna have to. And why were you gonna pick him, JB, if he's racing?
I don't know. I don't know what he's been doing. That's just like he's done, huh?
We're gonna have to start having this conversation. I hate to say it because he's so exciting, but man.
Well, then I'll go with Schachmann.
Interesting. He better. Okay. And
I would definitely go with Van der Poel, but I have to pick somebody else. So I'll go with Schachmann.
Yeah. To come back on Alaphilippe, Lance, I think you have a point, because last year he was not great at the beginning of the season before Milan-San Remo. He didn't win a single race. And in Milan-San Remo, he was there, surprisingly. So I think this year he's on a higher level than last year. Definitely has his ego beaten a little bit. So I think you have a good chance. That's a good prediction there, Alaphilippe.
Thank you. All right. Well, that's thank you, George. We're going to get George some podcast gear. We'll send it back. I don't know why I ended up with your podcast gear. I think I was going somewhere and thought I might be able to do a podcast. Does that make sense? Anyways,
You took them from me when we went to Dubai.
Yeah, I don't remember why. But anyways, fellas, this has been good to get the band back together. This has already started out as a crazy exciting season. So this will be good for us, good for everybody watching, good for everybody that cares. And by the way, not just on the men's side, the women's side as well. We'll be covering a lot of women's races this year because this isn't a sideshow anymore. And so excited for that. And hey, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for everybody for the support. Obviously, OURA Ring, Roca, Kettle and Fire, LMNT, and Magic Spoon. Thanks for your all support. And we'll talk to you. We'll post this up Saturday after the race, and we'll see who got it right. See if the old man got it right for once.
Okay, good.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, everybody.